still we grind. From the darkness to the light we claim. Still humble in the struggle, still proud of our name.
What up, what up, what up? Everybody, we back again. My name is Tim. Just want to introduce myself. You already know. Hope y'all doing good out there. Hope y'all staying positive and whatnot. Fellas.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Will again. We back with another episode.
Yep.
Appreciate all the support that's been tuning in with us.
Yep. Likewise. And we've been having some people that have been reaching out that we want to come on the show. So hopefully next season we'll try to get some people more on here in the night. So I'm working on that. So, but today's topic, we're going to talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and we're going to talk about mental illness. We're going to tie that into that. So who wants to share their story first? Any sad stories?
I guess I can say I got a redemption story, if that makes sense.
All right.
So, I'm a firm believer that, PTSD actually comes with us, as African Americans or Blacks, so however you want to position it. One of the things I would say, and also the mental illness part as well, that all ties and combines in. So in my lifetime, I've been homeless twice. The most recent one, I lost my job, lost my condo, and my kid was on the way. I was like spiraling, like just losing it. Survival mode, you name it. And it's not always the best, but I'm pretty much trying to be open about it. I was like, hey, I'm gonna take somebody's stuff. That's how I felt. I really felt like that. I was like, okay, sticky fingers. It's time to start snatching or whatever. Because in my mind, I was like, my kid is here. I'm broke. I'm seeing people smiling. Everybody's looking like food to me. That was my mentality at the time. But I would say, luckily for me, I had a good group of people that kind of just surrounded me pretty quickly. One of my good friends, she was going through a lot of life stuff, but she actually talked me into going to therapy. I've been to therapy before, but it never ever went well. But she told me to give it a try. I did. It started kind of resetting my mind, getting out of that deep dark hole that I'm in. I had my moments, my bouts of depression here and there, but where I was originally, it was a dark, dark place that I would never wish that on my worst, and just because of how I was thinking, how I was moving, and how I was operating. You know what I mean? So to me, I feel like, if you can get help, get help. Yeah. So.
Just to piggyback off of that a little bit, because I'm still dealing with therapy right now. My therapist also identified that I dealt with PTSD. That's more on the side of dealing with, parents and everything. And I did not know that my parents, they were dealing with PTSD as well, because they both militant. They both served in the United States Army. But my PTSD dealt with more of, controlling wise, verbal wise, by just doing what they say and not doing what they do. So anytime if I messed up or did something, I wasn't able to really verbally express it. So it was more of an internal thought process. So now anytime when I deal with a situation, I start recognizing that my mindset goes off to like 10 times another level than what it's supposed to be. So my therapist right now, she just continue reminding me like, hey, we still at this certain level right now. We're at a 1. How come you're taking it to a 10 already? Let's bring it back. So if anybody's out there that's dealing with that same type of issue, I mean, you can get through it. Just learn how to remember that you got to keep yourself self-centered.
Yeah. What I'm going to say is really depressing, but I think it needs to be said. Sometimes, like, when you have a lot of childhood trauma and you don't process it the right way, You can have reminiscence or flashbacks of some of the things that happened to you, when you was a child. Um, I talked about a little bit about my father and how he was really abusive um, a couple episodes ago. And what I didn't say was that he put a gun to my head too. Um, I'm a little shooken up still about that. Um, but when I look back at that, I think back to when my mom was there and she begged him not to do this. She begged him so much that I think he didn't even want to do it. I think he had so much built up aggression against his own father. And we talk a lot about generational trauma.
Mm,
It's so many things that his father, that he never got to process with his father that he took off on me with. And it's no excuse for what he did. And it's still, sometimes I can't never be in the same room as somebody that's kind of like looks like him because I get
mm,
those backflashes of when that happened. And so it even run deeper too. I talk about this on another episode without you guys, but it was another guy that came on here and we talked about generational trauma and all of the things that came with that. He, when I look at, when I think about my father, I think about he was a very evil man, but he also had a lot of hurt and resentment of his own childhood trauma that he never resolved. And so he took everything out on me because his father never had the conversation to sit down with him.
mm,
And ironically, I actually did get to meet my grandfather, which was his father. And I tell you one thing, that man is a splitting image of him. He
mm,
sounds like him,
Mhm.
he acts like him,
mm,
and I'm even afraid of that man too. I
mm,
said, I remember when I walked through, he lived in an apartment complex, and I walked through those doors. He never said hi, grandson. He never gave me a hug.
mm.
And I was only 7 or 8 years old. I was expecting love and kindness and warmness from that man. But I got
Right.
the complete opposite of all of that.
Hmm.
Sit the fuck down. I'm like, I just got here.
Right.
Like
Mm.
what? Like, but that gives you a little bit of insight about how my father dealt with him.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I can only imagine what he dealt with. Like, I mean, I know some of the things he did to him, and it was not good. But just that little taste got me a little bit into a glimpse of what my father had to go through with him. And when you go through a lot of trauma, you you don't process it at the time it actually is happening to you. It takes you years later. And so when we talk about PTSD, we talk about something that is still affecting you to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you might have a nightmare or you might not have. You might try to stay away from men that kind of look or resemblate your father or father figures or whatever trauma that triggers you. So you try to stay away from that. It was one time where, if I'm being really honest, that I didn't have a lot of black friends
Mm-hmm.
because I never felt like I could trust, people, you know. So I was always very guarded and I always like stayed closer towards the white kids because I thought that I would be a little bit more safer. Um, but that's not my reality anymore.
Right.
I'm still vigilant when I'm in the hood in the Cleveland area. I'm still watching my surroundings because I gotta know what the hell's going on. So in case something pops
Of
out,
course. Of course. Of course.
I'm out of here.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's important to do that. But when we talk about PTSD, that's something that's gonna like last. And you talk about trauma, you talk about therapy a lot, Will. Um, and I think that is a good form of releasing some of the things that you didn't really get to talk about in your childhood trauma. Because I actually have a therapist. I think I've been have her for about 3 months now. She's a new therapist now, and
Okay.
she said, "Daron, you got to release all of that trauma that spilled up from your childhood. You have to learn how to move forward in life and not think about that." But I told her it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
man, the man that I met as my father was supposed to protect me,
Mm-hmm.
and he did the opposite of that. he was a threat to me. And so anytime, you know, I see a resemblance in him, it's like I was working a job and I had to go, you know, you know, go to a school because I was working with in education.
Okay.
And it was this guy, and he looked just like my father. And I got a little bit sad because I was like, wait a minute, I know that ain't him. But I know what he looked like. But now that he's a little bit older, it's a little bit hard to tell because I haven't seen him in years. But I still have that visual image of how he looked. He kind of looked just like him. I was like, wait a minute, that ain't my father. So but then he wasn't. But it was just like that kind of still triggers me when we talk about PTSD. So now I want to kind of move into now the conversation of mental illness because we can tie that in together.
For sure.
When we think about mental illness versus mental health, you know, there's a big difference between those two.
Oh yeah.
You know, mental health, you know, you're taking care of your, you know, yourself, you're going to therapy, you know, you meeting the right people, you know, to get you to be on the right track. But mental illness is a whole nother thing that in the Black community we don't talk about.
For sure.
You know, your mind is mentally disturbed. That's what I'm trying to say. And it doesn't, and it wants to disturb other people around you too. That's the problem I have with mental illness in the Black community. You know, there's medicine to treat it, but then there's people that goes to the extreme and they think sinister thoughts and they want to harm you. So speak on that. Have y'all ever had like maybe friends that you know was a little bit unhinged? Because I definitely have.
So I was gonna say before even getting to that, also realize with mental illness too, with those who do have it, because I have friends with it, I have family members who had manic depression. I got slightly diagnosed with it very young. We don't think linear, meaning it can happen at any moment. I could be smiling at you, the next thing you know, I'm throwing a chair in your direction. Like, hey, bro, what happened? We were just playing Uno. What was, you know? But like, I say that, but you know, I say that in jest, but like, you know, it is some friends. I remember going to college, still trying to revamp my mind and trying to be a college kid, no longer the dude in the streets. But I did have some friends that, you know, that I got cool with, that I realized, hey man, you know, all what you're thinking is not always right. I had one particular friend, and I'm not going to mention his name. Unfortunately, he ended his life. We would hang out, and we would hang out. Let's say, I'm not telling myself. There was a whole semester where we just didn't go to class. We'd be up like 7 a.m, smoking, drinking, laughing, kicking, trying to get girls, all of that. But by like, I don't know, by like 5, 6, all right, I'm going. And he would always tap me all the time. He's like, hey, bro, can you just kick it with me for a little bit? And at first I was like, nah, Pepe, I'm tired. I want to go back. Like, you know, and I would get other people who say, yeah, I saw such and such, like he was just walking around talking to himself or speaking to himself. Okay, cool. So I started saying, hey, let me start hanging with you. Like we'll hang out, whatever. And he would tell me things. He's like, man, my mind sometimes go dark. Bro, you ever dream it'd be pitch black? You don't see nothing. You just see yourself sitting in the darkness and all the type of stuff. So again, you know, all this to me is like, bro, what's going on? But like I said, his mind was going someplace else, to a point where I think I got to meet his parents, or parents rather, excuse me, the mother and the grandfather. The grandfather just kind of played it like, man, you know, he boys being boys. Mom was like, nah, I think he need to go see somebody. And you know, because at the time mental health wasn't being talked about in that time. This is like 2008, 2009, you would get clowned, right? Like, you go, what, you crazy? No, I ain't crazy. I ain't that. So I think when he moved back to his hometown, it was just one day. He was by himself. Took his grandfather's gun, and that was it. That was the end of it. And then it was posted all through Facebook, through family members and stuff like that. And be like, man. And we just start reminiscing, putting pieces together. Like, hey, you know, he was doing this and that and that. Did you see that? Yeah, I seen it. And we started realizing more and more, like, man, he really was going through something. You know, I know sometimes it's hard to try to chase down friends or try to reach out to friends. Like, hey, you know, if you're going through something, tell me, because sometimes they feel like they're a burden. Like the friend I just talked about, he felt like after when I did start hanging with him, he felt like, man, you go ahead. No, I know you about to go chill with old girl. Da 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 da. Like, no, man, it's cool. You my boy. We good. You know, sometimes he'll just disappear just so that way no one's hanging with him. So, but try to check on your friends, connect with them, have that conversation, right? Tell them it's okay to get help. Tell them it's okay to talk to somebody, even if it ain't you specifically. You can go find somebody, you know what I mean, and talk to and be able to try to start setting things in a better motion. Because, like I said, when it comes to D said it best, mental health and mental illness, two different things. When it's mental illness, they do not think linear. Time sometimes don't even have a designation at all. So keep that in mind.
I have a story that's similar to that mental illness. Funny thing about it, this is dealing with my best friend. I mean, this was my childhood brother that I grew up with. I think he died about a year ago, 2 years ago. But the thing that made it was this. When we was kids, I remember hearing them say that his mother passed, you know, off of OD. We was only about 10, 11 years old. So the only people that he had left was just his brother and his dad. Now let's go forward. This was probably about 4 years ago, maybe 5. His older brother died in a car accident. He wasn't driving, he was the passenger. So now I'm like, dang, dog. His older brother's gone, his mom gone. It's just him and his dad left. I haven't heard from him in so long. So one day my brother called me and he was like, yo, I got somebody on the phone for you. I'm like, all right, who this? And he said his name. I was like, yo, what's up, man? I ain't hear from this dude in years. Last time I heard from him, we was only about 10, 11 years old. I was 20, I think I was about like 28, 29 from the last time I heard from him. Then after that, my mother called me. No, she hit me up somewhere on Facebook and said, hey, such and such just died. I was like, what? She was like, yeah, he just died. He OD'd. I'm like, come on now. Really? So now it's just replaying in my head. I'm like, damn, man. Your mother, your brother, now you. Only person that left is now is just your father. So I don't know what he was going through. I don't know what was going on. But I mean, for me, I'm not gonna say it's a regret, but I could have took the time out, just to hit him up, just to see how he been and everything. Since I called him my brother. So that's just something, just to give somebody insight as well that I don't know if he was dealing with a mental illness or not. But
Yeah,
unexpected things happen.
yeah. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, man.
But sometimes we have to take ourselves out of the situation,
Yeah.
because we can't help everybody.
Sure.
I've been doing this, for my other talk show for 4 years now, helping men. And I see some very sad stories every day. And people even message me from time to time. And I'm not going to even mention names, but I get a lot of DMs and they always need help. And, I want to help people, but I can't help everybody. You have to do the work yourself. And I know that might be hypocritical of me to say that because we mental health, YouTube channel where we talk about mental health, and we want everybody to come and help us. And we want people to come to us and we be there to support people, but you just can't help everybody. And I don't know if I should even tell this story, but I think I'm going to tell it anyway, since I mean it is part of the topic tonight. You know, mental illness. I had a friend, and he died of suicide. Um, and you know, everything was cool, popping. You know, the chat was good. You know, we would check on each other, we would hang out with each other. But you know, I just noticed like maybe about a year and a half into our friendship, or a little less than that, you know, everybody just stopped talking, you know. And that's where I knew something was wrong. I was messing with my other friend, and I knew longer than everybody else in the group. I was like, hey, you know, this is weird that people just stopped talking. Like, you know what's going on? And then we was and then they and I was thinking, you know, I don't think they care too much for us, you know, me and this other guy that was, you know, really close friends with the other people. And he was like, you really think so? I was like, yeah. And then after my friend died of suicide, a friend told me that, hey, you know, we was still talking. We just wasn't talking with you guys.
Mm.
Then I was like, okay, I see how we moving now, huh? But you know, I try not to be that spiteful, you know, person where like, okay, so y'all was still communicating, you just wasn't communicating with me and my other boy. I see how things was going, but you know, it would be really, you know, it would be really, you know, not good of me to say, give you the full context. Like, you know, I really felt like I wasn't really close with, you know, three of them anyway.
Gotcha.
And I think about how it all played out. You know, he stopped communicating. You know, no one really was talking in the group chat, but they was moving. But they say that, you know, we're friends, right? We're friends, but yet we doing things behind each other, and we're not really telling each other the real. We're not keeping it real with each other, right? We all have those friends where I'm gonna stay away from you because I don't really like you that much. That's an internal thought, right? You
Right.
know, but it's like when I sit back and I think about how it all played out, it was the perfect exit for my friend because he was already battling mental health issues, right? You know, so it was perfect for him for the whole group to just fall apart. It's easy to just like go my own way, do my own thing, and not have to really tell nobody because, of course, you know, he's battling with his own problems and he feels like he can't come to us. But I wish that he would have came to us because none of us was judgmental of him. Like none of us all have our own opinions in life. Like that's what I want to say. Like men, you know, we don't really talk about the internal things that we, deal with on a daily basis that we have to just kind of push through. We got a negative thought, we got those intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, we don't never really talk about that shit because that's gonna make us look bad. But no, we gotta strip down that shit. We gotta talk about that because that's part of being a human being. You go have intrusive thoughts.
Sure.
You know, I know for a fact. I could be wrong. I was one brother that said I never had suicidal thoughts. Well, that's good for you. But that don't take away from the other 90% of the men that actually had those thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? We all have been there and we wanted to do what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been going through certain situations that's been lasting way too long and we feel like it's no way out. But I feel like there is a way out because you have to open up and you have to talk to people. You know, it's been a lot of times where, I say, I'm gonna try to figure this out on my own. And
Yeah.
luckily I was able to push through and figure things out without always having to go and support people because, there is that stigma, like I don't want to be a burden to someone because I never know what they got going on. You know what I mean? But you have to open up and you have to understand that illness is real. If we always keep everything to ourselves, how are we gonna help the next generation? Right?
Yep. That's
How are we
true.
going to help them to navigate and say, those thoughts that you've been having where you feel like you want to just, kill someone or trick
Mm-hmm.
or whatever's negative or bad internal thought that you're having,
Yeah.
it just goes off like that. I got a sister that's mentally ill. And, she can be a lot to deal with sometimes. But I try to be there and support her, but sometimes I have to pull back because I'm not always there mentally, right?
For sure.
I can't pull from a glass half full if I'm not full, right?
Right.
And I tell myself mental illness is real, and it's real. Like you go in the hood and you'll see some things, and you'll be wondering why they go. Like you could be just walking by casually in the hood, and everything's going good, and then somebody come up and approach you and just ask you the weirdest shit. Where you get those shoes from? Where you going?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know you. Well, what do you mean where I'm going? I don't know you.
But you know what's crazy though that you said that, because we got people like ourselves, like you said, being in the hood. Let's take that example. That you literally have to leave out to see, oh, that's not normal. Because it's not like this. If you've been raised in it, like you know, you're out in Cleveland, right? Close to San Francisco. You're out, I believe, by in the DMV area, right? What we perceive to be normal, we sometimes got to step outside that to see, oh, this ain't normal. Especially with us black men, because sometimes the intrusive thought may not be suicide, but you have these thoughts that I'm not worth it. I'm a burden. I'm not the person. I'm the person who solves everybody else's problem. I can't have people solving my problem because I need to have all the answers. I got to put it all on my back. And these are responses that you probably heard from uncles, grandfathers, TV. You know what I mean? Things that's already been painted. So now these are thoughts that I'm not going to say they're not your own, because they do manifest eventually, but they're thoughts that now cloud your judgment. So I can go to Daron, I can go to Will, but I don't, because I got to put it on my back. I make all the decisions. They can't help solve whatever else going on with me because I feel X, Y, Z. Not knowing that sometimes talking it out helps. You get what I'm saying? Talking it out helps. I remember, so my baby brother always sends out like a motivational videos all the time, right? We had like a whole chat. It's me, my younger brother, my baby brother. And he's saved now. So sometimes he'll give you some Christianity advice too, but he'll put out motivational videos. And there's this coach, I can't remember if the coach, I think he played he's for the Cardinals. And he said that us as men have to sometimes play like a playbook. When I'm crafting the playbook, I'm watching film. I have one perspective. My assistant coach, my defensive coordinator, my offensive coordinator has a different perspective. What do? We put it all together, and that's how we make our playbook. We don't just do a playbook strictly off of me, because if we do, I guarantee you we're not going to score, right? I thought it was going to go like this. I thought we were going to have fit switch. I thought it was going to be, audio. No, you need help. And I think more and more we have to start as men, and just as the whole black community, start getting to that mind frame that it's a whole playbook. You can't just make it off the head coach. You need more pieces. Because again, like I said, when you get out from where you at, you start to see things like normal. And when you start talking to people, you'll start to get a way how to start solving situations to make it easier. Not easy, but easier. So,
That I do believe, because I mean, there's days where I'll have some intrusive thoughts with myself, especially being a single dad and everything. Having the help from the grandparents and all, I mean, that's a blessing. I'll say that. That's a blessing. But then I also look at it on a perspective, as in, I mean, they can't do everything for my kids. They just there to assist and help when need to. Everything else, falls on me, because the mother really not doing anything. So I'll be having my days as well when, man, I'm like, damn, this got to be taken care of. That got to be taken care of. Do I got the money for this? Do I have enough of that? Do I got this? Do I got that? It'd be days where I just isolate myself from everybody. The only day that I ever be excited is Thursdays. That's the time when I talk to my therapist. That's like my only safe zone at that point, when I get to a certain point. but I also take medication as well. I just finished taking it about 2, 3 days ago, and I'm gonna say it's been working out. It's been keeping me, stable, level headed, to be able to really focus on staying in the present moment, to realize do this one thing at a time. And for fellas out there, because with me, I really don't like taking medication. I don't. I'm an all natural person, organic stuff. I'm 10 toes down for that. But sometimes a medication would work, just to help you just to stay calm. So, damn, I don't lost track. See, shit got a lot of stuff going on right now. But anywho, the intrusive thoughts, I'm also learning now to be writing down, just certain affirmations just to remind myself, that give yourself some grace and just understand that you're not perfect.
Mhm.
You do need help because if you didn't need anybody help, then you consider yourself God and you're not God. So I just want everybody just to know that right now. You need help. You're not perfect. Give yourself some grace.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, you have to see a therapist, at some point.
Yeah.
As much as you've been through in your life, like you can't do it all alone. As much as I used to dread seeing a therapist, right? Like this was before mental health was really big. And I used to think, and it was one psychiatrist said, you need to see a therapist. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. And I was young. I was like, I'm not going to see that. But then as I got older and try to figure everything out, I'm like, man, I really need some help. I know I got this problem of trying to just suck it all in and not talk to anybody. I know I got this problem, but I don't want to go talk to a stranger that don't understand. That was my internal thoughts, and that's what kept me back from seeing it until I got into my late 20s.
Mm.
And then I said,
Right.
"Oh, they're here to help me. Okay, I can work with this. They're not there to do all the work for you. Obviously, they're not going to do
Yeah.
all. They're not going to answer all the questions. They're going to facilitate it, but then you got to do the work." And I just want brothers to get comfortable with just coming and having this support. Since I'm in a lot of mental health groups, I'm really am. I'm big on that. I'm big on brotherhood and looking at other people's life to see what can I take from that. What type of ways that I can retrain my mind, and so I'm not thinking so negative all the time, or I'm not so anxious all the time. It's a lot of the coping mechanisms that a lot of men have to start using in order to survive in this life, because you're not gonna get that on a job. They're not gonna worry about your mental health. In
Sure.
fact, they contribute to making your mental health worse sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to have an outside resource to help you out. So I'm gonna always be a big advocate, for therapy, EMT, where they, pretty much kind of like help you to get rid of the trauma that maybe triggers you.
Mhm.
Um, I'm still kind of learning about that, and I want to see if I want to actually move into that because I'm still triggered by some things that my father did to me.
Mhm.
That I think that um, it can help me to overcome some of these, things where I'm not thinking about if I see a black man that look like him, I'm triggered. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. I know that ain't him. I don't want to be in that fear, my entire life watching over my back every time, I go and, where am I I'm going, or I'm driving or I'm just walking in the neighborhood and I have to watch my back and, be all paranoid and shit, and I don't want to be like that for the rest of my life. So I'm gonna be looking into EMT to see if that can kind of help me to get rid of those things.
Okay.
Uh, but to wrap this up, with some positive messages that we can give to the men that, you know, feel like they don't have an outlet, because there's a lot of men, much as I do the show and I've seen so much and people come to me, there's still a lot of men that don't know that these avenues are out here to help them. So how can we, get to these men. How can we send some positive messages, and maybe hopefully they watch this one day and see it and like, okay, I see they doing their thing.
Don't be afraid to talk to anybody, man. Like I said again, the intrusive thoughts are there. They're always going to be there. You know what I mean? They're always going to be that voice in your head. But talk to people, get help, get a therapist. And I like to write, but I'm gonna be honest with you. The first time somebody proposed this to me, I was like, "What? I don't do diaries. I don't do diaries, right?" But you can call it a diary, you can call it a journal, you can call it a notebook, you can call it homework, whatever. But journal down some of these things because
Yeah.
sometimes whatever you want to talk to people in the head, because I know it was with me because some of the stuff that I had was backed up. It just came discombobulated. So I'm talking about one point, another point, another point. So it just seemed like a giant web. You may have to jot some of this thing down, and it'll get you into the motion of speaking to people and talking to people and talking to therapists and whatnot and what have you. And like Will said, medication. I'm homeopathic person too. Like I love just doing everything natural. My mother's like that, but we are in a space now that hey, we may have to be on some type of medication. You can talk to your doctor, give them your concerns. Right now, they shrugging their shoulder, they don't care. Yeah, then get a second opinion. Get a second opinion. But tell them your concerns. I think these things would definitely help out.
I would say this. You will have to get uncomfortable. That's the big thing. You're gonna have to get uncomfortable and get out your comfort zone. I know you may not want to talk to nobody, but you're gonna have to talk to somebody in order to get better. Just like they said, man, when you go through your tough storms, the waves and all that is gonna be roaring. But when you make it through that toughness, man, it's gonna be cool on the other side. So I just continue keeping your head up. I got this.
Yes, we got this, brothers, and I want to commend you guys too. Take care of your mental health too. Don't let these women, don't let these jobs stress you out. Don't let your family. You enjoy your life because you only get one life,
Yep.
and once that's it, that's it.
Yeah.
So why do
Hmm.
I have to keep worrying about problems that may not even exist yet? That's a whole nother conversation too. In your mind, like you create problems in your mind sometimes. They're not even there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna never talk. Y'all ain't ready for that conversation.
I
You
understand
create
what
a
you're saying,
whole
though.
scenario in your mind
Man,
Man,
even happened yet. Ain't that crazy?
that's super crazy. Yeah, that's super crazy.
well, to be honest, I have those moments. So, Daron, I understand what you're saying. I know what you mean on that part.
Hmm.
And that's what we need to do as Black brothers and sisters is we need to get healed. We can't keep carrying these problems that actually exist and that sometimes don't exist, and that can stress us out for the entire our lifetime. We have to move better. We already have enough just being Black people in general.
Whew. Yup.
Tell
Now we
them.
got to throw on things that may not exist or problems that's far down the line or maybe problems that's actually happening. You draw all that together and you go be insane. You go be in that psych war if you don't get it together. And I'm saying that not to laugh because mental illness is real and I understand it and I've been through some things. I've had suicidal thoughts and I know what it's like to be in the space. And I've seen even my closest family and friends go through some crazy things that play out in their mind. And they do certain things that don't make sense to everybody else. So I understand it, but we have to learn to move forward and become better individuals. And that's going to take time. And I'm not equipped to handle that. Like, I am not trying to be anybody's therapist. We're here to support and educate people, but I'm not a trained clinician. So while I appreciate the messages sometimes, it just feels like people come to you since they think that you got all the answers, but we battling things that some of us may not even know that we're battling ourselves.
True.
So I just try to be there to help and support people because I know that that's the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, you have to go see a trained therapist or a trained clinician to help you out with whatever you're going through, because I can't help you out at 12 o'clock at night if you feel like you're about to actually do the deed and you're going through a lot. So just try to help yourself out and be the best that you can. But on that note,
For sure.
you guys take care, man. And take care of your mental health too.